and it's kind of just these simple life lessons that we learn through Hula. And it also teaches us to manage our resources. My kumu talks about it all the time that kumu Hula were by trade trained to be resource managers. The first halau was actually the forest itself. Hula is a manifestation of us trying to mimic our environment. Hula is a product of Hawaii. It's a product of no other land but Hawaii. And the movements and the cycles that occur in Hawaii occur nowhere else. And that's what makes Hula unique to Hawaii. And without those resources like the forest, those plants, these places in Hawaii, if they don't exist anymore, then Hula can no longer exist. So we as Hula dancers have to maintain all these resources, such as our friends that we adorn ourselves with, the shells that we use, the awa that we use in our ceremonies. All of these things we need to maintain out in our environment for Hula to sustain itself. So Hula is not just a dance style like hip hop or something where you go to class and you learn it and then, okay, bye. It becomes a whole lifestyle and a whole way of thinking and seeing your environment. That's it.
We have a saying in Hawaiian, "Ika olelo keola, ika olelo kamake." In the word is life, in the word is death. So if you want things to live, you have to nourish it with words. So how do we nourish this life? So when a child is born, we create a chant for that child. We create a dance for that child. We create a genital dance for that child. So that all parts of that child is being lives, right? And so too if someone dies. If a child reaches his first birthday, we throw a big party for that child. We entertain, we do hula, and many times, like I have, compose new songs for the one that is being celebrated. And this is one of our traditions. And actually, that's how why I really went into hula was because I went into language. In the language, we have a grammatical language, yes, but we also have a poetic language. For example, instead of saying "welcome, chief," we would use the word heaven. We won't use the word chief. We'll say heavenly one. Here comes the heavenly one. The rain falls upon the cliffs and adorns you with mist. And these kind of images then elevate the status of this person that you're talking about, all done with poetic metaphor. So a person in Hawaiian language, like you took Hawaiian, yeah? So you not only learn the grammatical language, but the advantage of the hula is that you begin to learn the esoteric and poetic language of our people.
What will hula do into the future? This is in closing. So last thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm always quick. So first, Kulian, our first responsibility of a kumo is to pass on that body of knowledge from his kumu so that it's preserved. But then for it to survive, I really think that we need to, as a creator of text, be able to write new things for this era. I'll give you an example. I went to a festival in New Zealand, and the people there are called Maori, and they're like close Polynesian cousins to Hawaiian. And so these guys came out and they did a haka, and everything about their dance haka was traditional, except they're talking about the need for men to use condoms, right? So these movements, right? Men use a condom, men use a condom, right? We haven't yet gone as Hawaiians into these very important topics to talk about. And I think this is just my opinion. That's where we need to go.
I definitely, as a young teacher, we need to make sure that we know who set some of the foundations in front of us, and we need to make sure that we acknowledge those teachers and sit with them as much as possible, if they're willing to share it with us. And at the same time, exactly what Kumu said, To me, in order for us to progress and for Hula to progress, I'm not worried about Hula ever falling away. I'm not worried about that because Hula is worldwide already. There are more schools of Hula outside of Hawaii than there are in Hawaii. There are more schools of Hula in Japan than there are in Hawaii. There are more schools of Hula in Europe than there are in Hawaii, in Mexico, in Norway. It's all over. What is important to me is that as Hawaii, as Kanaka Maoli, as the Hawaiian people, we have to remember and maintain that this is our dance form and not let it get filtered through and watered down, because the quality of that is really important. Blood, sweat, and tears went into the many years that I trained with my kumu. Even though I graduated at 27, blood, sweat, and tears. I literally bled. Blood, sweat, and tears. And had to go up into the forest and know what I was looking at in the forest so that when I go take my students, I take them one time. My teacher taught me to do a lei, and he only took me in the forest one time. And he spoke to us the entire time we were up in the forest. Showed me this is what you have to pick. Don't pick these because this. Grab those. Those are invasive. Take them out so that you're cleaning while you're picking. Look for the ones that you want to wear in your lei because that's important. If you're going to make an ugly lei, you're going to think junk and negative thoughts. All of that ugliness goes into the things you adorn yourself with. And when we adorn ourselves, it's to make us stronger. It's to give us inspiration. It's to put on the kinolau, or the body forms of the deities that help us to dance. If I don't do that with my own students, then it's going to get filtered out and watered down. And before we know it, Hula will not look like the Hula that I know right now. Hula has changed continually from the time that it's begun. But what's maintained it to me are those teachers who have tried in their very best way to maintain the integrity of the things that were taught to them by their teachers. And with that set of rules, if you will, push forward to the future and capture the things that we do today. We have to leave for our children and for our grandchildren and the generations that come after a snapshot of our own lives today, or else they won't know who we are. And so by us creating then, we're leaving really strong cement footsteps in the sand, if you will, and giving them a real strong foundation upon which they can stand. And so even when they go far away and our children or our children's children, they move away and they don't know Hawaii, but they still have Hawaiian names, they'll know what it means. And they know that inside of themselves, there's something that connects them there. Because for us, we don't have any other place. And for me, Hula is my way that I maintain that.
So what I think today, the policy that I wanted to bring up was something that's dear to my heart, and it's controlling the assessments, because I think a Titanic analogy that was brought up is that assessment is a part of a sinking ship. That even though they can say, oh yeah, 2 official languages, you can have, I allow you to have immersion schools through Board of Education policy and state educational policy. But yet, they're always pointing back to all of the US DOE says this, the US DOE. So when the state uses the federal government as a scapegoat, then you create, that's when you throw the wrench into the pump. And the pump can't pump the boat. So in Hawaii, I know there have been many presentations about, oh, Hawaii we got them, we're alive. But really, we're on a sinking ship, in my opinion. It's the same situation. And the more and more the state defers to the federal government and scapegoats through policy, the less control the Hawaiian language speakers have on their education system. But what we're seeing now is that in their schools, because of policy, the teachers are changing curriculum, principals are changing their rationale for decision making. The bureaucratic hierarchy that goes all the way to the superintendent, all the decisions are made, oh, but my hands are tied. The federal government says this, my hands are tied. And the federal government won't even hear it. Mahalo.